kitchen is dark when I find myself in the fireplace, but I can see light coming from the living room. I rush there, my heart still pumping furiously for the exchange with Ron. There is no turning back now. My mind is reeling with too many thoughts, plans, schemes I need to adopt as soon as possible. Shall I go to Hogwarts to make sure he won't try to take Rose away, or it's better to return to Romania for Hugo? Shall I inform the Barrow? Shall I inform McGonagall? Yes, surely I need to send her a note, but with what all? There is no one in this house. All these frantic thoughts flash in my head in the second it takes me to get to the living room. But once there, they melt away, as if never existed. Harry is sitting on the floor, surrounded by family portraits. The drawer where they were hidden is open, empty. Fragments of glass are scattered everywhere, as all the frames have been shattered when, in his fury, he had roughly shoved them away. He must have cut himself because some of them have bloody fingerprints on it. He doesn't seem to mind, however. He's staring intently to one of them, clenching his hand. It's the one of him and Ginny that appeared front cover of Witch Weekly 3 years ago. He's observing it, eyes wide open, mouth half parted, passing his fingers lightly on it, leaving a red mark on Ginny's white dress. I see tears sliding on his face. He hasn't even noticed my presence. I call softly his name, making him startle. He tries to pronounce my name, but nothing comes out from his mouth. He gulps as tear after tear, one faster than the one before, race each other on his face. I'm stunned. I don't think I ever seen him crying before, not in the worst moments, nor when it would have been more than understandable. And this mark of sheer humanity touches me more than I can say. I lunge forward, throwing my arms around his neck. I feel his body shaking by sobs as he let the picture fall on all the others on the rug. "You are back," he manages to utter after a while. "Yes, I'm back," I say, kissing his wet cheek, the saltiness of his tear lingering on my lips. "What about Ron?" "We talked, and we agreed on me staying a bit longer." There is no reason to distress him with the truth, and it's mark of his affliction that he doesn't doubt my words. In his right mind, he would never have bought it. He rests limply his head on my shoulder. We stay locked in that embrace for a long time, until I don't notice the cut on his fingers. I point it out to him. He stares at it unconcerned, and then he moves his gaze again on all the pictures surrounding us. I want to heal his cut, but my wand is still at the cottage. In my haste, I left it there. I ask Harry for his own, but he is lost in the perusal of pictures and doesn't seem to hear me. The dismal expression on his face shatters me. I take his injured hand to my mouth, sucking the cuts, one after the other, to stop the bleeding, my eyes tearing up. He observes warily, reclining his head on one side and sighing. "I'm afraid, if you stay, I'm only gonna harm you." I shake my head, succeeding in a watery smile. "Don't worry about me. I'm fine." He sweeps me up in his arms impetuously, kissing my head. Lulling myself in that embrace, I feel so well and secure, I may fall asleep. Suddenly, all the turmoil of the day events weighs on me, and I feel overwhelmingly tired. but I don't allow myself to nod off. It's me that must comfort him, not the other way around. So I loosen myself up from the embrace and I ask him again for his wand. He reaches for it on the sofa and gives it to me. With that, I mend the broken frames and his fingers. Do you want them back on the wall, or shall I put them away? I ask, gathering all the pictures. He glances at them fleetingly, running ahead in his hair, in a palpable distress. But I don't receive an answer. I've got all of them in my hand, asking myself what is best to do, but then, mindful of the late memory blanks, I hang them one by one on the wall, so they are very visible. He observes me doing it without speaking, staring at those pictures that remind him all he has forgot, as well as all he has lost. It's time to go to sleep, I say cheerfully when he's done. I cannot sleep, Hermione. I tried, but I can't. He mutters, shaking his head wearily. I'm here now, I reply, going to him. I'll stay here, and I'll keep your hand the whole night. I won't sleep, so if you need me, I'll be there. I won't share his bed, I promised myself we wouldn't anymore, but nevertheless, I won't leave him alone. He sleeps in it, and I sit just beside it, keeping his hand firmly in mine. With a flick of the wand, the light is off, and silence and darkness envelop us. Thank you, he murmurs. It's nothing. Then, hush, dense and absolute. A silence that speaks, because I can tell all what is passing in Harry's mind through the almost imperceptible change in the pressure impressed on my hand. It's discernible only because of the stillness that amplify every sense. Sometimes it gets stronger, and I know he is in pain. Sometimes it gets lighter, and I know he's trying to soothe himself somehow. When the touch is getting lighter and lighter, which make me almost think he's finally asleep, a murmur reaches my ear. I cannot bear this. Not again. It seems as though I'm only born to suffer. I heave a big sigh. You are not born to suffer. It doesn't mean only sufferance. You forget all the happy moments. You had many of those too. He plays with my fingers thoughtful. With his thumb, he brushes my palm, sending me shiver throughout my whole body. Why, oh why, he has this effect over me? Why, even in the most pathetic moments, I feel all this desire ringing in me? I'm deplorable, and not deign to be called a friend. I did, but I feel like I always got the short end of the stick. Why some people get to be happy their whole life? They see their children growing how it should be. They get old with the person they love. And I cannot. Why am I doomed to see people die around me? He is right. It's incontrovertible. But the truth doesn't help much here. I must strive to convince him of the opposite. You got many things to be happy about. Many people you love are alive and healthy around you. The fact that they are alive and healthy now doesn't mean that they cannot die too. And I cannot stand the thought. I cannot stand the idea that this might happen again and again. His fingers interlocks with mine as he shifts in bed. This is the risk you take when you decide to love somebody. This is the risk I don't want to take anymore. I feel like my chest is made of stone. It's only with an enormous effort that I manage to move it up and down to allow air flowing in my lungs. How can I convince him that it's worth? Would I still want to love in his shoes? Harry, think about what you lived with Ginny, how you loved there, all the happy moments. Think about Lily, how lovely it was to have her in your arms. Are you not happy to have regained those memories? Having the choice, would you forget everything again, just not to suffer? A muteness fell in the room. Only the hums of a few cars outside is audible. I think I would endure double of what I'm enduring now to have them again. I would endure it too, to be loved in the same way. So you must resign yourself. You cannot have the one if you are not willing to endure the other. There is no easy way out. You must live with it. He is reflecting on my words, and his fingers are now still tightly around mine. But they are not coming back. And there is an easy way out. A way that would allow me to be serene again. And what would that be? There is always the white place. What is it? I asked, puzzled. There is not an immediate answer to my question. It lies suspended for a few moments, until his murmur returned audible. Nothing, he says, and after a further moment, he adds, I'm glad you're back. I nodded off at some point, I don't know when, but I find myself warm and comfortable under the duvet. I wanted to be awake the whole night to keep Harry company, and I failed miserably. I slept so soundly, I didn't even realize he scooped me up and placed me in bed. I opened two very heavy eyelids, and I perceive him sitting in the armchair rubbing his eyes. Quite red, the eyes. I don't think he slept much. Hey, he says, half smiling, when he sees me awake. I'm sorry, I gabble, sitting up on my elbow, still extremely drowsy. I must have fallen asleep. Don't worry, you were very tired. You can sleep still a bit if you want. It's not yet 8 o'clock. I'm going to James' room. I don't want to steal your bed. I stammer while trying to disentangle myself clumsily from the duvet to stand up. Stay, don't be silly, he says. I'm not gonna lie down again anyway. The weather outside is grey and full of rain. I let my head fall on the pillow, ready to comply to his suggestion. My head is all fuzzy and dazed. I really need some more sleep. I didn't get enough. Between the chat with Harry and the argument with Ron. Ron! That thought waked me up completely. My eyes are suddenly wide open. I must do something about it straight away. I cannot afford to be idle. I sit bolt upright, making Harry large. What? He asks, alarmed. Nothing. I need to talk to George. Why? I need to borrow Leo. I gibber incoherently. He's surely sleeping. It's definitely too early for him. I push back the duvet purposefully. I'll try anyway. I dash in the kitchen, closing the door behind me. It is indeed early for George, but I must try. I might get lucky. His living room is empty, with the usual mess lying around. I try to call his name, not too loud, so if he's indeed sleeping, he won't wake up. On my second try, his head pops from the toilet door, his face half covered with white and fluffy shaving cream. All right, Hermione, not too early for a call? I'm so surprised to see him awake at this hour doing such a normal morning activity as shaving that I'm a bit taken aback, half forgetting the motive of my call. What are you doing awake so early? I thought I would find you asleep. Which just shows how very little you regard my sleeping hours, I heard him say as his head disappears behind the door, presumably keeping shaving. I've got a meeting with a supplier this morning. It's beyond my comprehension how certain people can schedule business meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning. I hear him complaining, annoyed. Out of any common decency. Your common decency, you mean? It seems a normal business meeting time to me. Have it your way. he bellows from the bathroom. I still think it's very rude to force people to alter their routine only for a silly meeting. Utterly selfish, if you want my opinion. So why didn't you refuse? Because, he says, all patronizing, it just so happens that the supplier is quite a hot babe with some very uncommonly big... George! I bellow, scandalized. You asked and I answered. His defensive retort come from the bathroom. So, to what do I owe the pleasure of this unreasonably early call? Some problems with Harry? And here I falter, undecided on how to proceed. No, not quite with Harry. No, I gabble. So what then? Some problems with Ron. His head pops out from the door, and he looks at me, narrowing his eyes suspiciously. Give me a sec. After a minute, he comes up to the fireplace in his underwear, cleaning his face with a towel. So, did the Pratt pay you a visit, I guess? How do you know? Bill is getting daily boring calls from him, whining and flying into rages in turns. I thought it might have happened soon. I nod. You thought right. And as you can well imagine, it hasn't been pleasant. The good thing, if good can be called, is that Harry seemed to have got back his memory. Or at least most of it. Okay? I imagine in a smooth and pleasant way. What's the bed? I gather all my strength, not sure what the reaction will be. I'm divorcing Ron. A stunned silence follows my declaration, and then a huge beam appears on his face. But that's great news! Brilliant! He burst out, leaning eagerly toward the fire. Finally, after so many dreadful events, a joyous one. I'm so bewildered I cannot promptly reply, so he goes on. We need to celebrate. I can postpone my meeting. I've got some bubbly somewhere, he say, looking searchingly toward the kitchen. But if you really want to get properly pissed, I've got an outstanding bottle of... George! I interrupt him, at which he looks at me inquiringly. Are you sure? Did you understand what I just said? Of course. I'm only partially incapacitated ears-wise. You are divorcing Ron. An articulated sound is all what my mouth can produce. He looks at me, rolling his eyes. Look, Hermione, it was years I was expecting something of the kind, basically from half an hour after the wedding, and frankly, I was astounded it hadn't happened yet. Everybody could see it was hopeless case, yours and Ron. It was about time you took that decision. We both know that the Pratt would never have taken it. Mom won't be pleased, but even her couldn't fail to notice how screwed the situation was. It's for the best. We don't want Rose to become schizophrenic and you go a junkie. And anyway, after the Harry involvement, you having slept with him and everything, personally, I haven't got a problem with it. Don't take me wrong. Better you than I think her name starts with S. But I have the slightest suspicion that Ron wouldn't be of the same mind. I told you I didn't sleep with him. I snap, blushing furiously. Thank God the fire saved me from having him noticed. Yeah. And I'm boring yesterday. So bubbly or a stronger booze? George, you don't understand. It's not a peaceful separation we are talking about. I'm afraid it's going to be very unpleasant. He said he's going to battle me. I need you to lend me Leo. I want to inform McGonagall. I'm afraid he might try to take Rose away. George snorts, annoyed. Oh, for God's bloody sake, not again! So do I have to expect the usual visit forbidding me to see you together with Harry? I must say it starts to be irksome. I'll need to begin writing down the people I'm forbidden to talk to, or I might lose track. I find myself trying to suppress a snigger. A visit from him is a possibility. I think he's still in England. I don't know if he has done anything yet. Okay, I'll send Leo over straight away, and if you need anything, just send him back to me with your message. I'll let you know as soon as things develop, and thank you for your support. It means a lot. He waves a hand incessantly. Don't worry, just let me know how it goes. and before I can disappear, he adds, "Ah, and Hermione? If you want a taste of what you missed sexually wise in all these dreary years, you can pop in any time," he says, grinning broadly. And before I can retort angrily, he continues, "Ah, right, I almost forgot. Harry already provided. George!" I drew back from the fire, shaking with the mirth I cannot suppress. Bloody George! Unbelievable how impudent he can be. Although, I must say, he raised my morale. One of the reasons I never divorced Ron, besides the children of course, was my fear of losing the Weasley family. They became my family. I love my parents very much, but being an only child, it has always been quite lonely. And it was wonderful to me to be able to mix with the family as theirs. I don't know how Molly and Arthur are going to take it, and if I'll be able to participate to gatherings. Probably Ron won't allow it. But I know at least George is on my side, and apparently everybody else too from what I can collect. Now, I'll write to McGonagall. I need to find a lawyer, English or Romanian. Both, I think, and I need to make sure Hugo will be fine. Thankfully, the English house is on my name, but I'm sure that if I play well my cards, Ron is the one that will have to move out from the Romanian one. Oh, Ron won't know what hit him. It takes me a few moments of silent, bitter jubilation to realize that Harry is standing beside me while I'm still kneeling on the floor. He's observing me in consternation. "You are divorcing Ron," he only says astounded. "The door was closed. Why did you get inside?" I reply accusingly. "I wanted a glass of water. I didn't know it was a private conversation. Are you divorcing Ron?" I stand up, taking a big breath. Harry has never been too friendly with the idea of me divorcing Ron. "Yes, Harry, I'm divorcing Ron," I confirm, walking outside the kitchen. It tells me, quite upset. "Why? Is it because you got back here?" I suppose that is what triggered it, but you know there are many issues in our relationship. I'm in the living room now, giving him my back. "Is it because of me?" I heard him saying. I bite my lips uneasy. It is not only because of him, but I cannot pretend that surely it's not one of the main reasons. He grabs my shoulder and spins me facing him. "Is it my fault?" he repeats. I shrug his hands away. "Harry, the situation is complicated. There are many reasons. You know I don't love him. And if I'm not wrong, you were surprised too at me staying with him, not loving him." "I know, but you cannot divorce him. Not now, not because of me." It had to happen sooner or later. He shakes his head in distress. "Hermione, think about it. Think about your children. They are going to suffer if you do this." I start to feel a tinge of irritation, so I interrupt him upset. "They are suffering now, seeing us fighting like that." "They will suffer much more if you separate. You must do what's best for them." He fires back. "Don't you think it's a bit rich coming from you?" I snap furious, pointing an accusing finger to his chest. "You are basically planning to abandon your kids. You refuse to see sunrise despite she asks for you daily. You want to wash your hands from them, and you tell me that I must do what is best for mine? Why there must be a rule for me and a different one for you?" He widens his eyes, surprised by this outburst. But then his brows knit together and his expression turns angry. "I'm doing what is best for them. I've always done it," he shouts in rage, drawing away from me and pacing the room up and down. "Do you think I relish in the idea of not seeing Siri anymore? Do you think I'll be happy not to be able to witness my boys growing? Do you think I rejoice in becoming a stranger to them, in the idea that Siri won't know who I am 10 years from now? I'm keeping them far because I care for them. James suffered enough because of my mistake. Sunrise is the product of the worst there is in me, and she's paying dearly for it without having any fault. And Albus, who was fine, lost his mother because I killed her. You didn't kill her! I yelled, trying to interrupt his agitated ranting. I did. It's my fault. It was me. He barked confusedly, and not giving me the time to retort, he carries on hurriedly. It's because I love them that I want them forgetting about me. Don't you understand? I only hurt people around me. I hurt them, I hurt Ginny, I hurt Ron, and I'm hurting you. He let himself fall on the bed, taking his head in his hands, but then he roars with frustration and stares hard at me. You cannot divorce Ron. I cannot carry also these faults on my shoulders. It is not your fault, I burst out in rage. And you are telling a nonsense after another. You are not hurting anybody. Yes, I do. I did. He shouts angrily, staring at the floor now. His chest moves fast up and down with his heavy breathing. He rubs his face as I say, That's not true. You didn't kill Ginny. You didn't hurt anybody. It is just some twisted feeling guilty thing you have. He removes his hand from his face, struck by my words. But then he darkens, reclining his head. Feeling guilty thing? He repeats, narrowing his eyes. I nod boldly, because I'm sure of it. One of his problems is exactly this. He feels all the problems in his family are his fault. He blames himself for anything. Right, he says purposefully as he stands. I didn't want James. He starts to tell with a steady voice. For the first 2 years of his life, I almost never even looked at him. And when he grew up, I never really talked to him. I never allowed him to get to know me, to protect him. I neglected him. I've never been able to give him what he needed. When I finally understood and tried to mend my mistakes, and it was working fine, his mother has been killed only because my wife. She didn't have any fault. She has been tortured to death only as a tool to get to me. That doesn't mean that you kill. I try to interrupt, but he doesn't allow me. He come up to me, staring with a piercing greenness in my eyes, and continue. I raped Ginny. I'm frozen. For a moment I cannot speak. Thinking I misunderstood, I blurt out, Pardon? I raped her. He repeats, under his voice, keeping his eyes locked with mine. A chill stung my body. After Lily died, I was distraught, I was angry, I was furious. She hadn't any fault. She wanted to help me. I blocked her wrist and I forced it. I've been brutal and I really hurt her. I wanted to hurt her. The next day, she was covered with bruises. I'm rooted on the spot, unable to say anything. I cannot believe it. He must have imagined it. This cannot have happened for real. Not him, not to her. I gulp, and when about to speak, he continues. That is how she got pregnant of Siri. The little girl is born because I raped her mother, and because of some strange twisted old magic, now she must pay for it. Every strong feeling of mine, she feels it too. She's born to grieve when I grieve, to be angry when I'm angry, and she cannot avoid it. I'm ruining her life daily because of my never-ending torments. My mind is all fucked up, and she'll pay forever. Very close to me, few inches from my face, he arches his eyebrows. Feeling guilty, think? And then he sucks on the bed. I'm worthless. My mind is reeling, trying to give some sense to what I heard. I don't want to believe it, but yet it's undeniable. The girl feels what she feels. Every time she had a tantrum, it's because Harry was having one. And the dream! Everything makes horribly sense. My sentiments are confused. I cannot help but feel a strong pity for Harry. How he must have tortured himself with it. Sunrise remembering him of this fault every day. And just because he loved Ginny so much, it wrecked him even more. And because he loved Sunrise so much, he cannot help but reproaching himself bitterly. My God, poor man! He is indeed born for sufferance. And now, I'm hurting you, he says, overwhelmed. You cannot deny it. Harry, it's not your fault, I say, eager. You cannot blame yourself for what I feel. But I can blame myself for having used you, he retorts, making me falter. I cannot sustain his gaze, because inside I'm quivering already. I used you to help myself, knowing you would have suffered from it. I shouldn't have, but I did nevertheless. I profited of your feeling to blunt my pain. And he wavers, unsure. I'm pretty sure it did happen often other than I remember. But it cannot be. It must have been you. Shaking his head as if trying to make order in his mind. I open my mouth to say something, but nothing comes out from it. However, what it doesn't come from my mouth, come from my eyes. And you are married, Ron, a person that up 3 years ago was my best mate, and I disregarded that completely. He carries on, steadily regaining confidence. You must not divorce Ron. You must forget what happened. You must forget me so you can be happy again. He stands up, coming up to me, immobile in the middle of the room. My face wet, my mouth dry, my hair strangled, my voice mute. He takes both my hands, holding them tightly in his against his chest, pleadingly. You will try, will you? I'm ready to disappear from your life too. If I do, you won't divorce Ron, won't you? I swallow, overcome by anguish. A pained grimace I haven't got any power on spread on my face. I cannot! He let my hands go, distressed. But you must! He shouts. You must forget. It's your only chance for happiness. Don't you understand? This is not something I can control, I yell between tears. You can disappear, but it won't change anything. It will, he says confident, his gaze fixed on me. It will. If I disappear, you will forget eventually. You will forget what you feel and what happened. I stamp my foot on the floor, frustrated. No, I won't. This that happened has been the best experience of my entire life. I cannot forget it. It has been the best by far. I gabble incoherently because I know that as it has been the best, it has also been the worst. The best sensation I've ever felt. And the worst. I cannot forget it just because you asked me to. He walks randomly about the room and he slams a hand against the wall, roaring. Then he comes up to me again, eager. Hermione, you must make an effort. You must promise me you will. It's for your own good. You must let me go without this guilt. You were happy with Ron, don't you remember? You loved him before loving me. You just need to rekindle that. But where do you want to go? I ask desperately, getting agitated. You cannot just disappear from everybody's life like that. It's unfair. I want to love you too. And I cannot do what you asked me to. I've never felt not even the 100th part of happiness with Jim that I felt with you here. And it goes the same for sorrow. I'll divorce Ron no matter what. I don't love him. I cannot love him. And as my tears are gushing out of my eyes without control, the next sentence gush from my mouth in the same way. I love you! And with what agony is uttered, with what hopelessness, with what longing that will never be fulfilled. My legs cannot sustain me any longer. I sag slowly on the floor, crouching on myself and letting free rein to my despair. I cannot stay with him. I deserve to be loved too. I wail, bowing my head, struggling to speak, sobs breaking my voice. And then, mopping my tears and trying to placate a tremble in my body, I mumble almost imperceptibly. I just want to be loved. Why cannot you love me? While I clutch my stomach in despair, expressing my unhealable grief. And I'm crouched there, in front of Harry's legs, who watch me with a heartbroken expression. He then closes his eyes, defeated. None of us move from what seems a long time, but I'm pretty sure it's only a few seconds. I'm letting out all my affliction on the floor, and I know he cannot console me from this. He doesn't even try. He knows it too. I regain my senses, holding when I hear a rustle outside the window. Leo is there, trying to catch our attention.